Okay, what I want to have a look at today is some mapping software. Been looking for a while at the different sorts of mapping software available. The Hammer gear basically is just too expensive for us. You're looking $500, $600, $700. We had a quick look at their software for tablets. Not really what I want. What I've been looking for is something that will give you the functionality of Google Earth. Now, Google Earth, as anybody who's used it knows, shows you a satellite view. What I've found here is an app called Australia Topo Maps. It's relatively inexpensive to buy. There is a free version. You can try out the free version and have it online, but what we really wanted was something that would give us decent mapping software for use offline and also provide us with a satellite view. Now this will do both. There's a whole bunch of different maps available. Some are for different states because we're interested in Western Australia only. We bought the WA Topo map, which costs about $130. That's because of the licensing fees, unfortunately, but the map itself is pretty good. Now, as you can see from that, reasonably good detail, street names. Now obviously if you're out looking around the place, streets and tracks on a map are not really going to give you what you want. What you want to do is see, where does this track lead? What's at the end of that track? And the only real way you can tell that is with a satellite view. Now what I'm going to do here is select, there's a section on here called Esri, E-S-R-I, Aerial, and you can cache that or download it to your tablet. And as you can see there, instead of having the map available, you've got a proper satellite view of the area you want to look at. And I can go in even a bit closer than that, I think, and you can get fairly good detail from that. So as you can see, if you were looking for an area, open area in the bushland, something like that, you're coming down a track and you want to see what's in front of you. An ordinary map, it's not necessarily going to show you areas like this, but a map is never going to give you this sort of detail. As you can see, obviously we're looking at an airstrip here, but if that was just something coming down to an area in the bush, maps are never going to show you that sort of thing. And when you're driving around and you're trying to find a campsite or you're trying to find somewhere of interest to have a look at, that's the sort of detail you want. Now if I switch it back to the map, no indication at all of anything like that on there. If you're trying to see what's here, maps aren't going to help you with that. Yep, they're going to show you where the tracks are. As you can see, a bunch of tracks in here, but what's the detail of that? Really, what are you going to tell from a map? Nothing. You need that satellite view to show you exactly what's on the ground. Now that's the sort of detail you're going to get, and the way you do this, I'll give you a quick look at how that's done. If you're looking at exploring an area and you want to get the detail of this particular place, let me just zoom back out a little bit. If I want to save that for future reference on here, you go to Cache Map and you can download. It will pick the area that you've selected. Now you can broaden that out a bit if you want to, just by dragging these up. And when you're ready, you just say Cache Map. Here is where you select your level of detail. Drag that along to increase your level of detail. Now of course what's going to happen here is it's going to increase the amount of storage depending on the level of detail. If your level of detail is very high, then your storage is going to increase. Now for a lot of our bigger files where we've got this map in use, what happens with these is they go up to 1 and 2 gigabytes. So it takes a fair bit of storage. So let's just start that one off. And what you'll see here is it begins to pull down the different levels. We're only pulling levels 18 and 19 in this case, and it's a very small area, so it'll do it very quickly. When you're doing this with the bigger maps, a lot of the time this is going to freeze and it looks like it's failed, but it hasn't. What you need to do at that stage is just put your tablet or mobile phone into standby mode and it will continue to download it. Now if there's a problem with the download, you can see here that's the map I've just downloaded, and it's showing it came down as 100%. Now if it comes down at any less than 100%, you can select it and you can see here grayed out is restart, and that will only download the blocks that are missing from the original map. Now obviously it's not always going to download everything perfectly, it may miss a few, so you can restart and that will pull the remaining blocks down. You can have a look at what that area covers. Okay, so that shows us what we're looking at here, the general area, and highlighted is the area I've just downloaded. Highlight that again. You can get details of the map, and that will give you your GPS bearings. You can actually rename these maps, so all your maps can have meaningful names. Okay, so I'm not going to change this one, but we'll just go back from there. So you can change the name and that will change this name in here. As you can see, we've got Australia, Cleaverville, Walpole, Denmark, and a list of maps that I've already downloaded to this, and as you can see, some really huge sizes. If we have a look at this one and then see the coverage, you can see that takes a big chunk of the coastline at Shark Bay. And when you're offline, you'll be able to access that. So your task is to get all the areas that you want stored on your tablet or mobile phone, select them out and gradually save all the different boxes of the areas you want to go to. As you can see with the icon here, that's showing a map. These ones are showing satellite. And map coverage for that one is showing you it's a map, and I've taken the southwest all the way up to the midwest, so that when I want to access any of those areas I can do that offline. Now just a comparison between this mapping system and another one we've purchased. I had hoped this would give us something similar, and we have tried it out a little bit, but I've got to be really honest and say I'm disappointed with the results we've got from this one. When you're offline, the mapping detail is poor. You cannot zoom down to a level that really means anything. You have to over zoom and the map pixelates. If I go to the offline version, you can't have satellite offline. This is satellite. Now if I want the offline version, you can see by the red number here that this is over zoomed. When it goes back to level 13 it turns white. Now that's the level of detail we get for the Rockingham area. If you're trying to navigate here, that's utterly useless. Really? I can't see how this is going to be something we can use as an overall mapping tool. You have to over zoom to get into the roads. There's very few road names. All the minor roads are not listed. It's all pixelated. Very difficult to read. There's, as far as navigation in towns and cities is concerned, it's hopeless. It really doesn't do the job. Now let's get out to somewhere that's got a few tracks in it. Okay, what we're going to look at here is the same area but on the two different mapping systems. Okay, so we've more or less got the same area now on both maps. This has got very hard lines on it. If you want to go in closer than that and have a look at anything, Very, very slow to redraw the maps. Okay, let's come back out again. Okay. So in this case, the detail is much finer. The track detail, in a lot of cases, is going to be similar, I guess, but it's just the resolution of it and the way it displays on the screen. As you can see from this is really confused. When you get a whole lot of tracks together and you're trying to zoom in to see where you are, having a lot of confused area on the map is going to make life a lot more difficult. So if you look at this one here, the tracks are well defined, you can see where they are, and you can zoom right down and have a really good look at where each track goes. Now if I try that on the other map, one back up, and you can see here all this is doing is over zooming, and these tracks are just a mess. You really can't tell anything from that. So we'll go back to the other one. And really, it's like chalk and cheese, isn't it? We've got some features here, shaded features where you can see the hills, plus you've got your topo lines. So you can tell very easily where your steep areas are for ascent and descent, and the tracks are really nicely defined. There's not a lot of trouble looking for your tracks and finding out exactly where you are on that map. And as I say, when it comes to satellite, the only one of these two that will allow you to use the satellite view is the Australia Topo maps. That is actually 15 at overzoom, and it's still fairly good detail that you're having a look at there. Go back to the other one. You can't compare it, can you? There's just no way you can compare those two maps at that level. So I think we've probably found the system that we're going to use. As I say, I wish this had been a better system because it's a local product, and I would much prefer to recommend a local product if I can. But in the case of these two mapping systems, unfortunately, it's the Australia Topo map that really is providing the goods. And there's a lot more to this. We'll try and do a bit more of a tutorial on how to use it later on. But once you've downloaded all your maps onto this, and you will need quite a few gigabytes of spare space on your tablet or your phone, but you have a look at that. Being able to see that kind of detail. Now you can actually use this as you're travelling. It will show you where you are, and if you're going down these tracks, you can really have a good look at what's ahead of you. No mapping system is going to equal what you can see from a satellite view. So for us, this is going to be absolutely invaluable to have on the road when we're doing exploration. You can overzoom a bit with this, but you can't move the map around very much. And at that point at 19 is where you lose it. So your maximum zoom on this mapping system with the satellite view is 18, but of course that's going to depend on what level you download. If you don't download to level 18, you won't have 18 available. If you're happy with 17, you can stick with that. If you go up to 17, that's the kind of detail you'll get. That would be quite reasonable, I think. You can see an area here, probably a car park of some sort, could be sandy. You can see that's gravel coming down into there. So a lot to choose from on this one, and if you've got those satellite views available to you when you're offline, it's going to make a huge amount of difference to what you can find when you're out in the bush. So that's pretty good detail if you go down to that level, but it is going to cost you in terms of storage. You are going to have a decent sized memory card, probably 64 gig will do it. 128, you can probably store both systems on the same device. You can switch backwards and forwards, just selecting your mapping system. Now I've got to say, this particular bit of software is a little bit buggy. It will occasionally fall over, which is a nuisance, but compared to what you can do with other mapping systems that we've had a look at, this is by far the most useful. Even if it occasionally falls over and you have to restart the app, it's still, from our point of view, really worthwhile, because to get this kind of information as you're travelling around is incredibly useful. Occasionally what it will do, it will tell you haven't bought the map, which is a bit annoying. When it does that, what you need to do is shut the app down and restart it, and that tends to cure its confusion. Usually once you've done that, you can get back into your map without any problems. Quite why it does that, I don't know. There's obviously some bugs in the system somewhere, but just the convenience of being able to switch live when you're offline between a mapping system like this, a Topo map that'll show you the terrain, and a satellite view that shows you exactly what you're going to be looking at when you get there, that's amazing. I mean, that's just so useful for us. Now you can drop waypoints onto this by holding on. It'll give you the location information, and at that point you can share it, you can save it as a waypoint, you can go to that location, it will help you navigate there, or you can just close the point to get rid of it. There are a lot of options on here for setting up different routes. You can track your current position by using this button here. I'll just turn that off for the moment. You can do a track log. That will start a track log if you want to. You can append to an existing one. You can save your track logs, and in this case, since I've had a track log going, I'll just delete that. I'll turn the track log off. You can go to a certain area. You can search for various places. So for example, I want to find a campsite. You do a search of their database for this, and you want to find it on the map. And there you go. Now, just using Heron Point here as an example, that really doesn't show you a lot about what the campsite's like, does it? But the minute you switch to the satellite view, there's your campsite. Okay, and there is the detail of the campsite. First class information when you're heading somewhere and you want to know what's at the end of the track. Okay, so that's a look at the two mapping systems that we've been playing with. As I say, we haven't used either of these ones out in the field yet. I have been testing the Australia Topo maps locally just to make sure that everything works, and so far so good. It's been working quite well. To be able to check everything on a satellite view, to me, is way better than having just a two-dimensional map. Most people will do their research before they go away using Google Earth. In this case, you can actually do it on the run. I really can't see how a mapping system is going to be any better than that.